Like, should day-to-day foot, day-to-day listening not have gotten on playing it is my level? I've heard it's amazing. Because, like, where's the line?
The line is, as far, I'm not a casting person, I'm not in that business. Yeah. I am in the business of making independent film. I do understand what it means to satisfy the needs of the marketplace. I get that.
Yeah.
But in terms of casting, the first thing you do is talk to the appropriate talent who are best for the role.
Yeah.
Before you go making big deals with A-listers. But at least you gotta satisfy some of that audience out there, you know?
Well, a lot of times, smaller stuff gets picked up because an A-lister saw the script and got onto it before casting you and had to too.
You have a mic right there.
Could have been anybody. Could have been John.
Hello, Ben.
Could have been anybody.
See you. Remember Daniel?
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody.
Don't tell me we're live. We're arguing off camera.
Cliff is arguing off camera.
We're not arguing off camera. Get off of my microphone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Torn Tuesday, the OneRing.net's weekly update of all things Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Tolkien, books, movies, games, toys, art, even.
And newly published surprises, because it seems that every year the Tolkien audience gets another book that they didn't know they were going to have.
and there's so much that we're going to talk about, unveil, debut. We've got new information that we just got in yesterday that we can unveil only at Comic-Con. We have a panel this Friday at 3 p.m. Friday at Comic-Con. It's on the schedule. If you've got the app, add it to your schedule in the app. If you're not going to Comic-Con, download the free app from the App Store on any phone and add it, because our success is based on how many people add our panel to their schedule. And we want to come back next year and give you all the more juicy rumors as we have done for many years. But
so you're gonna tease the audience and not tell them what you're going to announce at
look,
Comic-Con.
I'm under strict orders from our source on one of these things that you cannot talk about this.
Can you tell me secretly off screen?
I can absolutely. Well, you're going to be on the panel. You have to know.
Then tell me now. Tell me off screen.
I can't. Hot mic.
Hold on.
Hot viewers.
We're going to walk off the frame for just a moment, and he's going to tell me these dirty secrets, and then we'll come back, and I'll pretend I know nothing.
I am joined every week by Cliff Broadway. Cliff, you are a movie producer, a television writer, a book author. Your books are in the official Tolkien library at Indiana State? Illinois.
That's at Wheaton College.
Wheaton College.
Illinois, actually.
That's
right next to Tolkien's desk.
And you produced Ringer's Lord of the Fans, which
I wrote it.
won a bunch of awards. One of the most respected fan documentaries. And we are here live from the Scum and Villainy Cantina, where...
And I'm going to hire you as my publicist from now on, Justin. That was very solid. That was rather good. Thank you.
I just like the fact that you created the definitive documentary on Lord of the Rings fans, and we are here at the Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood.
Which is the definitive geek location in Hollywood for Star Trek, Harry Potter, Star Wars,
Terminator,
Doctor Who, Terminator, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Nintendo, Terminator fans, you name it, these fans belong here at this bar at the corner of Hollywood and Cahuenga. Welcome aboard, and thank you to the hardworking staff and the management of Scum and Villainy for hosting us.
And in fact, the owner...
Hello, world. Hello, everybody.
The owner of the cantina is going to be on his own panel at the same exact time we're doing our panel.
Which is unfortunate, because I would like to see both at the same time. I need a molecular splitter. Ben, do you have one handy, please? The molecular splitter that we used in that dimensional rift last week. You have it, don't you? Please? I need that I need that molecular splitter right now, because I need to have my molecules in two places at the same time. At Comic-Con. Play along. You know they have a menu here. You know they serve food here. Yeah, okay, part of your dialogue was lost in the dimension we got lost in. Yes, that's right.
Well, we have the chat rooms open in front of us. I see Aruvandi and Sarah and Victoria and Nigel, Kaylin, Griffin, Constantine.
Hey there, Constantine.
Tiffany Jenkins. It's so wonderful.
John Constantine is my favorite character, one of my favorites in the DC universe. Hey there, everybody. Good to have you guys back on the show. This is a live show. You guys want to participate with us? There are many ways to do so. We have Skype. We have the ability to bring you in full channel, and we'll talk with you on the live show. And in my handy dandy pocket, there's a magic ring. No, wait, there's something else in my pocket. I hear you chuckling over there. We have a hotline. Is that hotline floating over our head? There it is. 1-530-64-FRODO.
Frodo. For Frodo.
For Frodo.
That's really our phone number.
Call us.
You
Text
can
us.
call us. You can text us. In fact, we get questions 7 days a week at all hours of the day and night.
We do.
From people asking.
I'm in the middle of finishing that 4,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. I'm right at the very, very end of putting Parliament and Big Ben together. And here goes the hotline. Blip, blip, blip. Do you think hobbits actually wear shoes in the summertime? Really, that happens all the time.
Now, look,
No, they don't wear shoes ever, to answer that question.
We always get your message. Text
Thank
us,
you, sir.
and if you
Next
get
time.
a smart-sounding answer, it's Cliff responding. If it's more movie and pop culture based, it's probably me.
For all of you joining us in San Diego in a few days, my gosh, we're very excited. This is our last live stream show before we go down into the rabbit hole of hundreds of thousands of people gathered together to cause the biggest strain on the infrastructure of San Diego that has ever been known by God or man.
That's
That's really what it is.
Yeah, it's San Diego Comic-Con. It's the biggest
Yeah.
convention. It's the granddaddy of them all.
Oh, my.
And it's the official copyright owner of the word Comic-Con, according to the law
Indeed they are.
and the judges
No,
and
ladies
everything
are
like
fine.
that.
Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you.
Bye. Huh?
And again, I think that this kind of sets the stage for the next year of fandom. And it's not just Tolkien fandom, it's all fandoms, whether you're a Buffy fan or a She-Ra fan or a Star Wars fan. There's so many ways that and panels that people engage with at Comic-Con. It's not as much cosplay as Dragon Con, but it's darn close. And it is super high profile
Indeed it is.
cosplay. In fact, one of our most favorite Tolkien cosplayers, Rose Ivy Wallace.
I miss Rose. I love Rose.
You saw her
She's
as
fantastic.
Tauriel on the bonus features of Battle of the Five Armies. You can see actual video of the Hollywood premiere where Evangeline Lilly takes a selfie with Rose Ivy. She is one of the best cosplayers in the world, and last year she won the costume contest at Comic-Con, which means she got to design a whole line of her universe apparel that's now in Hot Topic as of today.
Oh.
And she is.
How about that? That's a
she's
great
going to
accomplishment
be
for her.
at Comic-Con again this year,
Now,
and
that's how you take your level of fandom up to the whole next level, and you're actually
she turned her fandom into a business. Like she's getting
wow.
paid by Hot
Indeed.
Topic to design clothes. I mean, that's living the dream, right? Like you dress up as an elf, and it turns into a thing.
That's
And
really cool.
I'm so excited to see her new cosplay this year, which will debut on Saturday, is Dolores from Westworld.
Oh, I love Dolores, but is she going to be?
Yes,
like,
ma'am. I'm there, and I've got
Is she going to be the real Dolores, or is she going to be the Wyatt?
Wyatt.
She's going to be the Wyatt, the
She's
evil
gonna be
Wyatt Dolores.
Wyatt Dolores, and I'm so excited. I
that
wonder if
is
they'll let
really-
her in
that is
with
exciting.
with all those bullets across her chest. But I got inspired by what she was doing and her progress pics on Instagram. So Rose Ivy, I've got a Westworld cosplay debuting on Saturday as well.
That's really
I'm gonna do a version 1 of a lab tech. So
oh, cool.
version 1 of the lab tech,
Okay.
an early version.
I totally want to dress up like Felix.
Yeah.
I love Felix. I totally want.
And I'm friends with Leonardo Nam and Ptolemy Slocum, the two lab techs, and we did a
Oh, you're
Reddit
friends with
AMA,
them, huh?
and they told me all about their costumes and how it was made by a guy in Anaheim, and it's all magnets that keep it together and stuff.
Wowzer
So I got
browser.
some tips on on doing a lab tech, but I'm going away from the show a little bit. I'm going to do version 1, something no one has ever seen. But I'm going to be wearing this hat because, you know, what's that logo say right there? It says Westworld.
And it also says made in the USA, unlike most of the MAGA hats, which say made in China.
So this is an official Westworld hat that I got at Westworld.
Just saying.
There's I think there's only a couple hundred of these made, and I'm so excited to be a Westworld cosplay.
I'm excited
Cliff,
to see you do any cosplay at all, because when
do
he
you
does
cosplay?
no, I don't. I'm the last person. I'm the last person in the room. Do you know how much drag I did this weekend? I was at the 22nd annual Red Dress Party, which is the biggest local Los Angeles-based fundraiser for HIV charities and organizations. They have a legendary party where everybody comes in some outrageous red frock. It is filled with straight people, gay people, old people, young people, everybody, massive stripes of different people all around Los Angeles come to celebrate this very special day. And I have to tell you, I save my moments of cosplay for those events. Comic-Con is where I get to dress up in my favorite bowling shirt and look a little bit more nerdy than usual.
You cosplay as a professional.
I cosplay as a nerd, professional nerd.
Yeah, you do.
Professional nerd. But you should,
With business.
let me warn you. Here's a warning for all you cosplayers out there. Glitter glue is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You can use the colored glitter. Preschoolers use it for glitter on paper, right?
Yeah.
Kindergartners use it. When I used it in my beard and on my eyebrows to create these outrageous bright glitter effects, but I'm afraid that I went a little Whoopi Goldberg and I lost most of my eyebrows when I peeled the glue off. Now I'm afraid I look like Whoopi because I really lost most of my eyebrows. So, warning, glitter glue is your friend, but don't get
A minute ago.
No. Let me see.
Is it on?
Yep, I turned it on. Yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
What have I got in my pocket? There you go. Hello.
So no, I have not been to Comic-Con.
No, it's only for the brave.
Yeah, it
Only
sounds
for the
like
brave
a nightmare.
to go through.
Yeah.
Just a total nightmare.
If you have issues with crowds, it's not going to be your thing.
No, not gonna be my thing. The things that are at it, you know, that you have to get through the crowds for, are things that I'm sure I would really enjoy. The cosplay would be something I'd love to take a look at, but just the doing of it, you know,
Yeah.
would be rough.
Yeah.
You
Daniel?
know,
The logistics, that's the word I'm thinking.
That's
cosplay
right.
is half work and half dealing with the crowds and like being a performer. You are the character. You can't just be a guy dressed like or a person dressed at a convention. You have to be in character. You have to do the poses. You have to practice your poses. You have to practice your expressions.
Yes,
So
you
when
do.
people quickly want your photograph at Comic-Con, you look like the part. So I'm really excited about what Rose Ivy's done. I'm really excited to see all of you and our regular folks. And if you saw our post on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook today, we invited corporate Sauron onto our panel. That is no joke. Our friend is actually the woman featured in that viral meme that says "Dress for the job you want," and it's a picture of a woman in a Sauron mask sitting at her desk. That is our friend, and she is going to be on the panel to discuss what it means to be a Lord of Darkness in the corporate world, and how you climb the corporate ladder as an evil person, and giving us perspective on the state of fandom and how we can manage some of the toxicity in fandom. So when the Lord of the Rings show comes out on Amazon, maybe we will just be ready to have a good time and not nitpick on every little thing that we wouldn't have decided.
The vocal quality of Lord of the Rings fans, that vocal, energized quality that they have, Justin, has never been lost. Over generations of fans absorbing, reading, and loving Tolkien, going back to the 60s. Excuse me, it was published in the 1950s. But there's no shortage of fans telling other people their passion, their interest, and their level of engagement. What has been missing, I think, is fandom being in a psychological place of ownership. Do you know what I mean? Where they feel like the fans are the only audience who should be satiated by it, and that it's owned by them. And there are other fandoms, of course, at certain levels, who have been guilty of feeling like they own it, instead of just being in an appreciation state, like, I love this, I love this. Then they go to a place of, I own this. And that's a very subtle change. That's not on. Nope.
Well,
Here.
Cliff, you directed, you produced.
It's on.
You take it. Go.
Oh, okay.
Quickly.
Oh, I was going to say that kind of misplaced passion happens a lot across every bit of fandom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see it. Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, like you name it. People freak out.
You see it with bands. You see it with big, deep cult followings of musicians and bands. Don't you see that? So if all of a sudden the musicians change their sound or something, you know?
He
Well,
has the cool Australian accent, so he should.
he does have the
say
cool
so.
Australian accent, but don't you find it interesting that fandom can take on, and we want to keep this conversation alive, and we're prepping for this conversation on our big panel day at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to talk in detail about this very thing. What do you think, Daniel?
What was the question?
Do you recognize that threshold when a fandom goes from I love this to I own this? You know the distinction I'm talking about?
That's a good question. For me, it happened as soon as they announced that the show was going to be a thing that was happening.
What show?
I went
the
from
Amazon
very
show?
passionate and very optimistic about, my support for the whole Lord of the Rings Tolkien thing.
To clarify,
And then I flip-flopped like
you're
a-
talking about the announcement of the Amazon series.
Yes.
To clarify. Okay. Okay.
Here we go.
And
Well,
so
a lot of fans were like that. They're like, oh, more Tolkien, and we've already gotten all the books. We already have all the books on film. So what more can they do?
Yeah, they are definitely milking it. I'm not sure.
But the
what they're gonna
fans
do.
want this. We
But
want this
that's
as
true.
an audience.
That's true.
And it keeps Tolkien relevant
but
for
our-
generations.
And that I love, but are they gonna do it justice? Obviously, Tolkien isn't here to
I
guide
think
the
they
writing
spent
of it.
too much money on it to not do it justice, Ben.
This is another thing that this is happening with right now.
Yeah.
Are any of you familiar with the comic book series Deadly Class?
No.
No, we
I
don't
recently got into it, and this isn't a comic book in general show. This is a Tolkien show, so we're not going to get into the details of this comic, but it's fantastic, and Sci-Fi just picked it up and is going to produce it as a television show.
Oh.
And this comic book is viciously violent.
Yeah.
And it's teenage kids doing it. It's the premise is a high school for assassins where teenage kids go to learn how to be assassins. It's really
That's pretty good.
And it's all an analogy for the hell that is real life. High school and the trials and tribulations you go through as a teenager. Fantastic. I highly recommend Deadly Class, but it just, like, the first look trailer just came out, and I have a feeling that what you're talking about, this fandom becoming of this feeling of ownership, this invalid ownership, people who love this comic might be freaking out on the show like that, or are they going to do it justice in the show and everyone's going to be happy? There's no way to guarantee that people aren't going to freak out and hate this show when it comes out, just like I think is going to happen with the Tolkien television series. Like you said, they have thrown so much money at it, it has to be good.
Well,
people are still going to hate.
it has so much money thrown at it, and conditions of the business contract are different. Because
Do tell, because that's so important
This is
when
important.
it comes to an intellectual property.
I think the most important thing is to remember is that the family, the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien, has gotten into bed with this production.
Now, this is important.
For the first time ever.
This
has never happened.
isn't Hollywood and Amazon trying to milk something worth milking. This is the estate proactively going to Hollywood saying,
That's true.
we want more movies and TV series. So this isn't Hollywood saying, please let us drink from your well. This is the Tolkien estate saying, our aquifer is deep, and we want more.
Good analogy.
We want another well drilled on our aquifer.
That gives me a lot more hope for the product.
Right, yeah.
Whereas I think with Deadly Class, I'm sure it was Sci-Fi that went to them. The creators were probably approached.
I think one of the reasons, I think one of the things that Star Wars fans are dealing with right now in this kind of Star Wars burnout is because they are drilling a bunch of wells into Star Wars, whereas everybody was kind of on board with, like, all right, give us the 7, 8, 9 trilogy that George has promised us for 20 years. Like, give us those 3 movies, finish the story, and then maybe expand on it. But the fact that they're like every other movie, every other year, every 6 months, they couldn't wait. Like,
they have no patience.
No patience. Tolkien estate is kind of in the same boat, but they're leading it. In fact, the Tolkien estate demanded that production start by next year.
Yep.
They cannot sit on this. They cannot wait for the perfect circumstances or wait for a particular showrunner or actor. This show has to be cameras rolling next year. So they need someone that knows the books, knows the world,
Yes.
and someone that the fans will respect.
Hold on. I turned it off. I turned it off because we're getting...
Remember those boycotts that were supposedly going to take place before Force Awakens came out? Because there was an not African American.
Yeah.
Guys from the UK.
Yeah.
John Boyega.
John Boyega.
Yeah.
I think the saving grace of the Tolkien universe, they're gonna have the same like Rose Tico, Finn, like troll hate, because it's like one of the widest.
Well, we've started to discuss that, and I think we're going to talk about that more on our panel this week on Friday at 3 p.m. But we've talked about how Tolkien's original intent for a lot of these characters are not what was on screen. And in fact, Peter Jackson and the filmmakers were called out at the time by older fans of the books saying, that's not my Aragorn, that's not my Theoden, that's not my Faramir. And we've kind of been talking about this, how a young Aragorn character could be played by a guy like Riz Ahmed or Diego Luna or someone that's not, Danish white. It's
True.
That's a good question. Is are they going to try and make it so that this television series plays perfectly into the series of films, meaning the actors playing the characters in the TV series need to be believable as having grown up into the characters we saw in those
The
films.
intent of the estate right now is to connect all of the movies and TV shows into one universe. So this is an extension of what we've seen before. But if they get pitched a really great story from the right people,
Yes.
they are open
Yes.
to exploring anything. But right now, the intent is, and they have signed on the dotted line to license all footage, either released or hidden on hard drives from the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings series.
To
So
reuse
they
that
have
footage.
access to everything. They can reuse it. They can repurpose it. They can use those iconic shots of the
Wow.
bigatures. They can replace actors in a frame if they wanted to. They can do all that right now. So this is, I think, the Tolkien estate. We've been talking with them for a few years. You know, we see them at conventions and things like that, and they've been paying attention to what's going on in fandom.
Indeed, they
all
have.
fandoms, and they. Go ahead.
Is it a certainty that it is going to be a young Aragorn thing?
Yes. For the first season.
Okay.
You're not sold.
I mean, you kind of.
Did you read my
if you
Twitter
know what
thread?
If you know how the story ends, why are you going to tune in every week? You know what I mean?
Daniel, you of all hardcore Ringer fans should appreciate why the young Aragorn story as a portal, as a gateway into this very familiar place is rife with opportunity.
Search for
why
San Diego
do you
Comic-Con.
think that this is a missed opportunity? Tell me.
No, it's just like
Because I'm about to
why-
counter you with a lot of reasons as to why this is a very abundant opportunity.
Okay, I'll have a
But
drink.
Well, you're not coming in with an open mind. You're ready to shut someone
ready,
down.
but
This
I'm
is
ready
not
to
how
hear
you
you-
do
I'm
it.
ready to hear you first.
Yeah. I'm right.com over here. We already have the original trilogy. We know how we meet Aragorn and Bree, and he's one guy, and then we see him at the end of Return of the King as another guy. We see the end of his character. We know who dies. We know who survives. We know the events that happen. 1, 2, and 3. All the Hobbit films. Doesn't that take away any of the urgency for you if they were going to make a whole TV series about that? This is true.
Wow. Also didn't stop J.K. Rowling and Warner Brothers from getting into a 5-picture deal for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, even though you know where all the characters end up. The reason why we're in this area of possible entry point into the story.
Well, plus Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is not like Harry Potter's parents. I don't know what's going to happen with any of the characters in that, with the exception of this one that's coming out that is Dumbledore's backstory.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't recognize any of the characters in Fantastic Beasts from the original 8 films.
No, they're not. They're completely different characters, but
now
they're all
getting
going to
into that
start threading them
territory.
in and tying them into the inevitability.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
The idea, again, thank you, Ben and Daniel.
I just think that the charm with
I'll
like
wait.
Game of Thrones and stuff like that, the series that they're trying to emulate with this big 5-season balls to the wall extravaganza, is like there were books before Game of Thrones, and I don't watch the goddamn show, but like the story is still being like written, as I understand. Is this true?
What?
Game of Thrones. He was writing it
books
as the
books are
television
over.
show was being
But
done.
that's
The
an
book-
unfair
the book-
comparison.
the-
They're not going balls to the wall like Game of Thrones. What they learned from the experience of The Hobbit, which is Guillermo del Toro worked for over 3 years on pre-production on The Hobbit. He moved his family to New Zealand. He moved his kids out of school to put them in New Zealand. Everybody we've talked to at Weta says it was the best work of their entire careers. Guillermo del Toro's The Hobbit. And due to circumstances and scheduling and time frames, Warner Brothers just would not greenlight it. Guillermo had to leave. All that work was wasted. And so the Tolkien estate learned
In short,
from
Guillermo
that.
got screwed.
Guillermo did.
Like everything he did everything he needed to do, and he was going to make something incredible, and they screwed him.
This was Guillermo. Like if Guillermo won the Oscar last year for The Shape of Water, but he would have won all the Oscars for The Hobbit. I have no doubt.
They could They couldn't do anything but screw everybody over because
they wanted
MGM was imploding financially, and they stopped production on the James Bond movies. Daniel Craig was out of a job. The Broccoli family that produces all the James Bond movies, they were out of a job. Everybody was screwed by that situation.
What is this?
Yeah. But that was because MGM was like, we've got distribution rights to this film, but we're about to financially
Without going
die.
into all the machinations.
What is this?
Anyways.
What does any of this mean, though? Like, my thing is, we know what's like the Solo trailer. There's a shot in the Solo trailer when Chewie's almost going to get hit by this rock, and it's like, oh, this big suspenseful, is Chewie going to like live or die? It's like, he's going to live because he's in the next.
Oh, I see. There's no drama. Well. Here's the thing.
That's my thing.
So there's no drama with the young
introducing
Aragorn.
all these characters. Here's Legolas. Legolas is going to be fine because he's wearing plot armor that's going to see him through 6 more films.
But we know for sure that this is going to introduce a whole lot of characters that we've never seen on film before, including Elrond's twin sons. Yep. These are characters that we don't know their fate. We don't know their fate, and that's why the significance of the Fellowship of the Ring is that all these people that don't want to work together end up working together.
Look, Aragorn's mom dies. His father dies.
We know she's dead.
Elrond's wife is poisoned and attacked by orcs.
Wait,
the twin sons are trying to rescue her.
Spoiler.
It's not a freaking spoiler. It's been in the book since the 50s.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not a spoiler.
The thing is, and they've proven
There's
this.
thousands of years of stories and events and cool things to explore.
They've proven over and over that it's not the outcome that gets people into a movie. It's the way that you get to the outcome. Right?
It's
so
the journey.
You know what's going to happen at the end of Lord of the Rings, but it's how it happens that matters. It's how it happens that makes a difference. You know the good guys are always going to win.
Right.
It's how they do it. So like Die Hard, which is like a timeless movie.
It's not a Christmas movie.
John McClane is going to survive at the end, but it's how he does it, and it's the choices he makes along the way that people find entertaining, that people connect with. It's not what happens at the end, that's why they say spoilers don't matter. That's what I mean. Look, I don't like spoilers, but that's what they say.
You have a consensus of agreement, JC, from Catherine Love in the chat room, who says it doesn't matter whether you know if the characters live or die. Instead, we get to see them in their lives, their earlier exploits, their earlier adventures, and yes, Catherine, that is the payoff.
And it's a microcosm of what it is to be alive in general, right? Nobody in this room, we all know we're going to die. Mm-hmm. Everybody in this room is going to die.
Except Westworld.
Except for Gandalf, who's in the back.
Yep.
But you're going to die. So what do you do between the beginning and the end? And that's what matters, and that's the same thing with a movie. It's the same thing with a movie.
Look,
what happens in between?
This can be. They could either make this show as all the other high-profile shows right now, which is like short, which is stories that are told over 10 episodes, or they can make this like Law and Order, which is like here's the characters and they're going to do the same thing every week. Like Aragorn's going to solve a crime, I would watch the heck out of that.
My thing is it'll just take the wind out of the sails of all of those emotional beats that they're going to try and weave in. There's going to be no cliffhangers. There's no going to be, none of that. Next time on, Dragon Ball Z, this is going to happen.
Peter Jackson is guilty of those false cliffhangers and those false notes. In The Two Towers, he sends Aragorn off the edge of a cliff with a warg scout, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's dead." Oh, and a sad face on Miranda Otto when Gimli shows up at Helm's Deep and says, "I'm sorry, lassie, he didn't make it." And she's like, "Oh, so sad. Oh, Aragorn didn't really die," and everybody knows that. So the thing is, if they don't put in those false notes of putting the lead characters in unnecessary, ridiculous, pivotal life or death risks, and let all the other characters around them suffer and get beat up to get the main characters where they eventually go, then it becomes more like a Rogue One.
Look,
where it's interesting to see what they're going through, like in Rogue One.
The new Avengers film is a perfect example of that. We all know that Spider-Man's not going to be dead.
Hey, stop.
That
He's
kid
dead. I
That
cried.
kid has
I
like a
cried.
5-picture deal.
Stop.
They casted
No.
him.
Stop.
They cast him young. They're
That's
gonna
not true.
They're gonna milk so many movies out of that kid. John Holland is gonna be working forever, but it still was very emotionally effective to see him die and waste away. You know, it's like you were just saying. Like we know he's gonna be fine,
Mr.
but it
Stark,
was
I don't
still
feel so good.
effective.
Look, the reason that you put a lead character in peril is not to hit the audience with, oh my gosh, is Spider-Man dead? That's not the payoff. The payoff is the look on Tony Stark's face when he watches his protege die. If you put Chewbacca in peril, you're not looking at what's going to happen with Chewbacca. You're looking at how Han Solo is going to react when the thing he loves most in life is in peril. And that reveals more. It is to reveal character of the people outside of that.
You guys are missing a big thing if we're going to talk about Star Wars.
He's kind of convinced me.
Look, Rogue One, everyone dies. And that was a good time. We fell in love with those characters. And they died.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's nothing to say that the characters in the Amazon series for Lord of the Rings won't pull a Rogue One and everyone will die. We have to know why these few people from all these different races and cultures banded together as the Fellowship. We need to know that he is the last of the dwarves. This is the last of the elves. They sent the best of the best and maybe the last of the last to Elrond's council. So there's a lot of death that is going to happen.
Getting a young Aragorn first season storyline is almost an ironclad guarantee to the audience that if you love these characters that you're familiar with from all these 6 movies that you love, we're going to bring you back. We want you to subscribe. Pay for your Amazon Prime subscription, and guess what you get? You get to come back and learn more about what happened in the lifetime of these characters that you love so much and explore new bits and bobs of their lives that was never been revealed ever before. So that's the payoff, I think.
I think this just kind of strengthens your discussion about the different types of fans that exist. Right here we have like the perfect cross section. We got the open-minded, analytical one. You got the guy that's like, I'll watch it, it might be good, and then you got the prick that's just like, it'll never be done as good as it could have been.
Now, what's funny is that you are the oldest, not in age.
You just nailed us, bro.
That's true. But you're the
you
hardcore
all will
fan.
watch it. You all will watch it.
You
I'll
are
give
right,
it a chance.
Daniel, you're correct. Daniel is our hardcore original fan, brought to his fandom by the books, and you've loved the books all your life. You, sir, are a relatively brand new fan, only recently converted a few months ago by your love of the movies, and now you're going to re-explore the books. Ben, where do you sit on that barometer?
I have always been aware of the world of Tolkien. You read The Hobbit as a kid, and I have not read any of the Lord of the Rings books. I have seen all of the films, and I have enjoyed it, though that Hobbit trilogy was kind of a letdown, even though it had great stuff in it in all the films. It was just the whole time I was watching it, I was just couldn't stop thinking, Guillermo would have done this so much better.
Well, at Comic-Con at our panel, we want to get a pulse of everybody that's in the audience.
Yes, just like this.
Just like this. And we want to see where people are at, because I think there are ways that we can have these discussions over the next year and a half and prepare for battle.
I'm going to jump in. You can't say Guillermo would have done this so much better, because the financial and the time and everything would have been inflicted on him too. The fact that a movie comes out well is a miracle. Think about it. They make thousands of movies a year, and maybe there's 12 good ones.
Everyone we've talked to said Guillermo's
Perhaps
Hobbit.
a better way would be so much different.
It's not just
different, and maybe for my
Guillermo
taste,
was
I
the
would have liked
best
it more.
director for The Hobbit.
A lot of it is the planning, though. That was the thing that was the takeaway from a lot of those behind the scenes thing. That like the thing that Richard Taylor and the first AD and all those guys were talking about. Del Toro had the whole thing, like pre-production was underway. They were crushing it. They had everything ready to go, and then they just pulled the plug. You can't make a movie and then like play catch up for the entire thing. Yeah. Especially when you're doing like 127 days. How many?
Well, unfortunately, that's the schedule that television works on.
But You
So-
also,
Yes.
you also, no matter how good, and you've made a movie, Cliff, and when you went into making your movie, you probably set out and you were like, you know what points I'm going to hit on? A, B, C, D, and E. And what points did you hit on? Probably A, G, Z, W. Like, you discover things in making a movie that you cannot plan for. So the best way to make a movie is to make an A plan, a B plan, a C plan, and what you end up with is probably about 70% of serendipitous.
This is also true, especially true for documentary filmmakers. It's,
Even
it's
more.
very different for a narrative.
Increasingly true about television.
Yeah.
Television.
You got to work with what footage
Like
you get
Breaking
first.
Bad, the Jesse character was supposed to die on the first season, but the serendipity of his performance. But this is before anybody had seen the show. Said we can't kill that character, and we saw him through the end. That's
yes.
the serendipity
Yeah,
of
okay.
television. Is that
That's a good
all of
point.
the factors that go into the process of making a TV show. Also, you're writing the show as it's in production. Episode 8 isn't even written yet when the first one is done.
That's the magic to it, right? The magic to it is if you look at a storyboard to animatic to what ends up on screen, it is not that similar. And that's the best of the best planning. If you storyboard it and then you do an animatic, and when you get in with the actors' performances or this special effects shot or when you see it in cartoon form, it works. But when you actually have people's faces in front of the camera, it just doesn't play the same way. Even if you have the same voiceover actors voicing it, that's why an animated movie still needs an editor, right? Because no matter what you plan out in an animated movie, no matter how it's scripted and how it's written, you still need an editor to put it together to hit the emotional beats. And that's why it's impossible to say, based on this person's planning and the body of his previous work, he would have been way better than this other person for it. You just can't do it. Everybody knows how I feel about Last Jedi, but I can't say if Steven Spielberg or George Lucas had just done the movie, it could have been garbage.
Well, there's so many other things to talk about at Comic-Con. This is just
Anyway.
This is the one. Thank you for that, JC. Yeah.
The heaviest conversation and the heaviest debate. But this is all fan conjecture. They don't even have a showrunner right now. They haven't announced anything yet. So there's other things into the Tolkien universe that are real, that are not subject to all of this debate, because these are things that people are enjoying right now.
Have they definitively announced that the show is going to be about young Aragorn? Or
They
is
have
that
not
just
announced.
Nothing's been definitively announced.
They have not announced
there's
anything.
Zero.
But they have not refuted the reporting that theonering.net has widely spread around the world, which has been picked up by all the news outlets around the world, and they haven't said boo about it to refute it.
That kind of seems like the logical first step. Is,
Right.
From a business perspective.
So we've got
young Aragorn.
there's so many other announcements in the Tolkien universe happening at Comic-Con. There are toys, there are books, there are
books.
costumes, there are licenses, there are posters. There are
all the places where the real money gets made.
The show is just one thing, and
That's
nothing
true.
has
That's
been
true.
officially announced. And we fully expect Amazon people to be secretly in our audience to hear what the fans are thinking.
If you're gonna bring
please
people,
applaud when you hear something that you like.
Yes, please applaud when you realize, oh wow, we're getting another beautiful, posthumously released book. It seems that every few months, Christopher Tolkien surprises us, saying, well, this was going to be my last hurrah, but here's another thing that I did out of my father's manuscripts, and we've had The Tale of Beren and Luthien, beautifully delivered and repackaged to us to look at all the early versions of the manuscript before it was changed over and over again and put together in the Silmarillion, and it's really, really amazing what we've got. The stuff that's coming around the corner that I'm most excited about, really, to be honest, is when Magic Leap, which is the virtual reality
that Weta
company
Workshop
that Weta Workshop is
co-founded.
doing, when they announce, and this is pure Clifford speculation, take it with a big bucket of salt, if you wish.
That's
but
right.
I'm excited for Magic Leap and Sir Richard Taylor and Weta to come out and say, guess what? Our first virtual reality world is going to be Middle-earth based. And you guys get to really come into the Shire for real. I cannot wait for some shocking surprise announcement. And don't act all shocked when you hear it, because we're probably going to hear interesting news like that, because they're so closely tied together.
That's
the
right.
new deal, the deal that the family estate made with Warner Brothers, Weta being highly experienced with creating the visual look and the worlds of Middle-earth, the architecture, the costumes, the weapons,
Speaking
the
of
culture.
Weta, they sent
I'm
us.
just so look
they
at the heart. Look,
they sent us
Facebook
a
hearts are blowing
preview.
up. They're blowing up. They're
Weta
blowing
sent
up.
us a video.
They did not.
That we can preview. Of,
No, yes. Show me the Weta video.
Of their first
Show me the Weta video.
Comic-Con exclusive. Weta has never done Comic-Con exclusives. Everything that they've shown at and sold at Comic-Con has always been for sale online.
I'm excited.
Or available in other means. So their first Comic-Con exclusive is here.
No, Catherine, we're not giving away tickets.
Hands off the gold. I really need it.
Ooh, nice. The Gandalf the Grey statue is going to be the gold limited version.
Oh my God.
This is you cannot. How can you complain? This is from Weta, the people most
I
appropriate.
thought we were
to
gonna
make that.
see like some cool video footage or something.
There's nothing about the show more to talk about. We're talking about toys.
Now
we're
it's gonna
talking
be
about
toys.
artwork.
It's gonna be-
Mondo has some posters.
There's a
original
lot of
Blade Runner
exclusives
is an
at
absolutely
Comic-Con.
pivotal
This is the first
film
one
in
I've
the
seen
history
that's
of visual
specific
art.
to Lord of the Rings.
I was
Can I ask
approached
maybe
by
a dumb
Wet.
question from a noob?
Take a risk.
Weta is the company that Peter Jackson started in New Zealand to do Lord of the Rings, similar to like his
No,
version
they
of Industrial
started
Light.
10 years earlier on his horror films.
Okay, but it blew up.
Yeah, Peter and Richard started Weta.
Weta obviously has a film side. Weta Workshop is the toy company that's under the
Well,
same.
so this is a
How
great
is
question.
that?
We get a lot of confusion here. So Peter Jackson is kind of like George Lucas, and then he started many companies. Yeah, we have to because
Don't
he proved-
compare Peter Jackson to the man who
Jackson-
revolutionized filmmaking and is responsible for digital cinema, digital editing, motion capture that
walked into
Gollum
that.
was based off of. Don't compare Peter Jackson to that.
This is another debate because
Peter Jackson, people like Peter Jackson stood on the shoulders of George Lucas, and even if you talk to like someone like James Cameron, who you could argue is more financially successful and has, or maybe not financially, but has a better track record of movies, Jim Cameron will say that.
Yes.
There it is.
Stream is back. There it is. Okay, we're back. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being patient with us. We are
Sorry about that.
experiencing
My fault. I got angry when people made fun of George Lucas.
This is what happens when you stick a gremlin in the microwave. I'm sorry, Joe Dante. I love that film, but stop putting Mogwai in the microwave.
Look,
please, please.
Here's the thing: is that
We're back.
Peter Jackson started a bunch of companies. Weta Workshop is the practical effects company that make physical things. They
don't just do
chainmail.
toys. They make physical effects.
They
physical
make
pieces.
chainmail. They made the Blade Runner miniature sets.
They made the androids in Ghost in the Shell, the unfortunate remake with Scarlett Johansson.
So what is their relationship with Sideshow or A Gentle Giant or these other companies?
So
Sideshow,
there's a little bit of history. So Sideshow Collectibles started at just the right time, and they were the first to take 12-inch figures seriously. And so Sideshow had the Lord of the Rings license first, because they were the first toy company to be doing what they do, collectibles, high-price collectibles. So that put Sideshow in direct contact with Weta as Weta was designing and making the actual figures for the movies, because Sideshow wanted it to be screen accurate. Fast forward 2 years after the Return of the King, and Weta starts their own collectibles section.
So Weta is they design it, they manufacture it, and then they market and sell it direct.
Yes, direct.
Well, that's pretty rad.
Yeah. So Weta Workshop has a merch angle, but it's all combined into the company. So when you say Weta Workshop, it could be the collectible store, it could be the mini pop vinyls, the pop vinyl type things that we just saw, and it could also be Oscar-winning work for Blade Runner.
And it's all under one roof, so what you're getting is as close to what you saw on screen as absolutely possible for the price point.
Is the physical manifestation of everything Weta does.
So it would be as if Industrial Light and Magic created Luke Skywalker action figures.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Cut out
and
the middleman.
Peter Jackson is one of the owners of Weta.
Yeah, and so that's separate. Weta Workshop, the physical stuff, whether it's something you wear in a movie and I think they should get into cosplay at some point. But separate from Weta Workshop is Weta Effects, which is their digital effects company. Mm-hmm. Totally separate building, totally everything. It's the ILM of and Weta Effects.
But it's still under the Peter Jackson umbrella.
Thing.
But it was created by Tanya, Roger, and Richard Taylor, who are the husband and wife team who worked fabricating zombies and puppets for all of Peter Jackson's early schlockfest zombie films, like Bad Taste, Dead Alive.
That's the Workshop.
Meet the Feebles.
But that's not Weta Effects.
But that's not Weta Effects, but that's how Weta started. Was by building physical things for Peter's films. So and then what Peter was like, I'm friends with you, Richard Taylor. Why don't we make this thing? And Richard's like, yeah, let's do this as a business.
So there's the Workshop. There's digital digital manifestations are Weta Effects.
Yep.
Virtual reality manifestations are called the Games Workshop.
The Games Workshop.
And there's an editing company called Park Road Post.
Park Road Post, exactly.
And there is a production company called 3 Foot
6.
And is it how does that tie into like Wingnut?
Wingnut is
something.
You know what?
Wingnut is the umbrella.
Wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Individually, 3 Foot 6 was only created for the Lord of the Rings. It was the limited liability, I believe, LLC. So it's really overall it's Wingnut.
No, but Hobbit,
the overall production company is Wingnut.
Yeah, but Hobbit was done by 3 Foot 6.
It was?
Yeah.
I thought they changed it to 3 Foot 5.
They probably changed
They made
it to
another
3
company
foot
called 3
5
Foot
because
5.
you always do that to protect the assets from the. So like everything Kevin Smith does is view askew, right?
Yeah. View
but
askew.
Each movie like Tusk, was called Big Usyk LLC,
Yeah, he's got
and
a
Yoga
different-
Hosers was
every
Yoga
project
Hosers
has a-
LLC. So
Oh,
like,
has a release
so
release
each
company. Yeah.
movie has its own LLC to protect the assets of the other
Indeed,
things.
when we released Ringer's Lord of the Fans, we also, as a production company, created a separate LLC just for the release of the film itself.
So
For
Wingnut,
that
Park
asset,
Road
yeah.
Post, 3'6", 3'5", Weta Effects, Weta Workshop. That's 6 companies under the umbrella. The what?
The kids show production company. There's a production company
Oh,
called
yeah,
Pukeko Pictures that does like Jane and the Dragon.
Jane
all
the
that.
Dragon.
Oh, yeah, they do the kids show.
And they did the puppets. What was it called?
Meet the Feebles. No, I know that.
No, the other kids show was the What-Wats. Yeah.
What's?
So they have a little bit of everything. But the biggest difference between what Peter Jackson was doing in New Zealand and what George Lucas did is that George Lucas created the characters. So he has a whole licensing and IP. Nothing Weta does is owned, except their little Gourdborts game that they're doing with Magic Leap. But everything that Weta does, even though it's the best in the industry,
They license
is
IP
someone
to create.
else's
IP.
thing.
I think they're even doing Star Wars. They're doing like Star Wars costumes at this point.
They did a bunch of stuff on the last 2 Star Wars movies.
You'll see Weta Digital given credit in a lot of blockbuster action films that are not even something that they touched, except for being a hired company to do some VFX shots.
Well, I mean, if you have watched the behind the scenes on the Lord of the Rings movies and you have the budget, why would you go anywhere else?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, and as we talked with Sala Baker last week, it's cheaper to make in New Zealand because New Zealand is a non-union country. In fact, none of the actors get union wages or union contracts. They're, the stunt performers make more money on The Lord of the Rings than the actors did. So, and it is from the top down. The Prime Minister and on down have made sure that New Zealand remains that because it's profitable to come if you're James Cameron and you're going to be shooting movies for 6 years like the Avatar movies, and you don't have to pay union day rates, because you never know if you're going to be shooting or not. So he's just playing in New Zealand. All the avatars are in New Zealand, and they're trying. We hear that the New Zealand government is involved in the discussions to bring the Lord of the Rings series to New Zealand. And so Amazon is looking for as many tax breaks as possible because, as we all know, Amazon isn't the best shop for wages and unions. And we'll just leave it at that.
Although, did you see Jeff Bezos is worth $155 billion?
Richest man
the
in
richest
history.
man ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Ever.
He has more. I think the Walmart family is at $151 billion, which is
But
crazy.
We've asked everybody at Weta, what is the secret success? What's the secret sauce of Weta, and why do they keep getting the biggest projects and turning out great stuff? Whether it's a toy like we just saw, or those collectibles, or those full-size busts that Salo wore on the air last week, it's because they hire fans. They hire people that are very familiar, that love the IP that they get to work on, and they honed their craft through years and years of fan making, and maybe went to school for it, did digital design, 3D modeling, sculpting, chainmail. They hire fans, and they get better work out of fans. And that's really, you can see it in Peter. He wants to work with fans.
What is the other IP that they have? Obviously, Lord of the Rings. Do they have another big piece of intellectual property that they pump stuff out for?
When you say they, do you mean
Weta?
Weta? The biggest IP they are associated with, besides Tolkien, is James Cameron's Avatar movies, which is going to
Little
be
movies.
at least 4 or 5, just like Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling are throwing down 5 new Harry Potter prequels.
District 9, King Kong.
Now, District 9 and almost everything that is created under the director Neil Blomkamp, and he is an early protege of Peter Jackson. So yeah.
Well, let's just go to their website. Let's look at the projects that they have.
It's like Tintin. They got Krampus. They got.
Yeah.
They've got.
I mean, you got the website up there.
They own JKR. They've got Planet of the Apes. They're doing some Star Wars stuff. Warcraft. They did all the effects in Warcraft. Of course,
Nice.
Krampus, as you just mentioned.
I loved Krampus. That was
Wingnut
so
Ghost
good.
in the Shell. Dr. Gordborts. Thunderbirds was the one I was thinking about.
Yes.
Earlier.
Thunderbirds are go.
Watts, Jane the Dragon, Thunderbirds are go. District 9, The Adventures of Tintin, which he still owes Spielberg a movie. Peter Jackson owes a full Tintin movie, and The Wind in the Willows, and Chappie. So this you can see that a lot of this stuff.
Someone a movie.
Yeah, do you fancy owing someone a movie?
Yeah,
That's
how do
intriguing.
you owe how do you owe Steven Spielberg a movie and not deliver? He's
And also
he's
the Mortal
doing-
Engines.
Mortal
is coming.
Engines is coming. I don't know if they're doing anything at Comic-Con, which just seems weird. Mortal Engines is like the perfect movie for Comic-Con.
Fanboy directing that. That's Christian Rivers. That's like a Peter Jackson fanboy.
Yeah, Christian Rivers. You've seen him on the behind-the-scenes features of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Again, huge fan.
He worked-
He came up
He works in the production team.
The Weta group.
Yes.
Same with Neil Blomkamp, who's now doing a big movie,
Uh,
RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate using science fiction as current socio-political commentary, and I loved
It
it.
has nothing to do with the story. I'm talking about the filmmaking
Oh, the
technique.
filmmaking
For the
technique.
first
The
two
technique,
thirds,
It feels totally different.
for the first
Estaclado.
2/3, they used like found footage and
Yeah.
in-camera action, as if the people in the movie. It felt very documentary.
And then
at about 2/3 through, they dropped the gimmick. And
Yeah.
to me, as a filmmaker, I was like, oh, they just couldn't figure out how to end this the
Yeah.
way that they were telling the story. So they just shifted, and it went very expository.
Yep.
And to me, at that point, it lost its voice.
That might be why it was only nominated and did not win.
Speaking of
for
Peter
Best Picture,
Jackson's
yes.
next movie with Christian Rivers, Mortal Engines, it's basically a Peter Jackson movie. In fact, when you watch the trailer, they put Peter Jackson's name before anything else from Peter Jackson. But there's an actor in the Mortal Engines that I'm growing a liking to. His name's Rob Sheehan.
Yes, Rob
and he
Sheehan.
was recently in Bad Samaritan, a little movie.
Yeah, that was
Like
good.
a little thriller movie. It was pretty fun.
That was
but
good.
he has got the right look and attitude. I think that he could pull off a young Aragorn. If you guys have seen Bad Samaritan, look up the trailer for Mortal Engines. You don't really see him in it. But Rob Sheehan is one of these actors that is the right age, the right look. He could pull off a young Aragorn. And he's in the Peter Jackson kind of wheelhouse
Already.
right now.
Yeah,
with,
they're saying
with
that already.
Mortal Engines, which I hope does well.
I just hope that it does well, and I also hope that the marketing people who are working on Mortal Engines do a freaking better job than they did with that teaser trailer. That's all.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know anything about it.
Because it didn't register a blip.
Yeah.
The teaser trailer, if it had been really good rocket fuel, would have gone around, and even outside of your sphere of nerddom, you would have heard about it. See what I mean?
Yeah,
See
and I
what
mean, I'm in this
Good
world.
marketing sometimes
Yeah.
catches our public interest. Really, really good movie marketing becomes something that we can't stop talking about.
And here's
That's
the
how
thing
we
with-
are
Yeah,
as fans. Am I crazy?
So do you feel that
I'm
Star
crazy.
Wars marketing has been really good, but then the movies underdeliver?
The Star Wars marketing for the Solo movie was nowhere near on point as the good marketing efforts they did for the other recent films.
Although,
really,
is that because of brand confusion? Meaning, if you start marketing Solo a year out, you're actually marketing Solo 6 months before The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And so there's a confusion there because all of are very clear of like, I have a friend who worked on the Star Wars special editions and the Star Wars prequels.
Right.
And he went and saw Solo, and his first reaction was, wait, does this movie take place before Episode 1? Because the Darth Maul thing confused him.
Yeah.
This is a guy who worked on Star Wars. And that was his reaction.
Right.
What?
So how
Really?
do you... I know other people who saw...
We're talking about the marketing of it.
I'm talking about
Yeah, you just ruined the movie for
Brand-
all those people who didn't see it, by the way.
Cut his mic. Cut his
Oh,
mic.
spoilers 2 months later. Give me a break.
You know, a lot of people didn't watch it in theaters on purpose.
It's
Cut that guy's
That's
mic.
your fault.
Spoiler
That's your
central.
fault. The
Hey,
thing is, though, is when you, if you are not in, like, they don't market Star Wars to me and you. They market Star Wars to people who are like,
So let me ask you
that
this.
Star Wars movie.
Is
you know.
who should Lord of the Rings be marketed to? Because Lord of the Rings was definitely a horror movie dressed in fantasy. It was made by a horror director with effects that were very horror-ish. Is the new Lord of the Rings series supposed to be for us?
No,
or
well,
is it for a new generation?
let me ask. Hold on.
I would never agree with you putting that theory forward
Are
from the
you
get-go.
are you asking about the marketing, or are you asking about the creation of
The marketing.
The show? The marketing has to be
Okay.
for a mass audience because they've already got your money. They've already got my
So
money.
they don't
So
need-
they don't need us. We're already going to spend the money, and that's the argument I've always had with Star Wars fans. Is it's like they're like, I'm like, they don't care about you. They've got your ticket money on opening night at midnight, and then when you're going to go and see it with your friends who are a little bit less of a fan than you are, they're going after the people who don't know who can't tell you the names of episode 1 through 6.
So does
They're
Wow.
going after the people who are like who still think The Rogue Awakens is the last Star Wars movie come out.
Right.
You know, the one with the Death Star that Princess Leia's in, then Han dies. Like that happens.
Did you just call it The Rogue Awakens?
The
as a
Rogue
joke?
Awakens because they don't
That's
know
funny.
that those are different
Yeah,
movies.
That's funny.
That is, honest to God, more people than not would in of the 7 billion people on Earth, more people than not don't realize that 4 Star Wars movies have come out in the last 4 years. They don't know that. They forget. They think that 2 of them are the same thing. They don't know. Those are the people you market to. Those are the people you have to sell because the rest of us are going to go see it no matter what. Even if, honest to God, even if the first reviews are like, the Amazon series sucks, I would still go see it.
right? That's what
I'd still go
but
see it.
I just don't. Good filmmaking is a magical thing, and you can't plan for it. You can have the best actors, the best script, the best directors, the best property, and it could still be a turkey of a show. That's why I feel that it might the Tolkien estate pushing a 2019 filming date kind of does a disservice to Tolkien, but then again, they're not adapting anything. These are going to be all new stories told from a new perspective, and it's like, you know what, hit the ground running. And the thing I like about television is that they can adjust as they go. The thing with films, and we even saw this on The Hobbit, and we saw this even with the Star Wars prequels. When the movie came out, fans didn't like Jar Jar, and George Lucas rewrote his other 2 movies to lessen Jar Jar's role. He's admitted to that.
I disagree.
No, he
I think he
admitted
gave him
to
a
that.
media role in the second one.
He gave, but his screen time is less, and he gave him
but
a
he
large
listened,
purpose.
The filmmakers
Yes, a
listened,
very
listened
specific
to the
large
reaction.
purpose.
He
Yes.
shows contempt for his audience by making Jar Jar Binks the guy that authorizes the creation of the stormtroopers.
Right.
He gives that character purpose is what he does, and that's what a good sequel does. Is it gives purpose to the things that are set up in the previous
So who
movie.
authorizes the creation of the orc army in the Uruks? Will we see that?
What? Nobody authorizes
They're
the
going to give that
creation
to
of the
they're gonna give that
Urukai.
to Alfred of Lake Town.
Yeah, Alfred.
Is he still alive?
No, Alfred of Lake Town is no. You didn't even see the extended Battle of the Five Armies, did you?
I saw the whole thing. I don't own it on DVD. I
But
saw the whole thing.
Alfred ends up being catapulted into a troll's mouth,
Listen, so he should.
and so he should.
I mean, here's the thing. Look, if you don't like Jar Jar, there is nothing more satisfying than being like, oh, he's the reason that the galaxy's ruined.
But anyway,
I think
the
that's an
fan
inside joke.
reaction,
That's an
the
inside
fan
joke for the
reaction
fans.
was
Yeah.
loud and vocal, and the filmmakers listened. The thing with television and this Amazon series is that because of the process of making an hour of television and then starting over and making a new episode and then making a new episode, it's like you can listen to the reaction and adjust accordingly as you're going. And I hope that they don't go and make 10 episodes and then hold all of them for release. Put it out while you're making it.
I agree.
I
agree with that.
You made
100%.
a point also that they set a release date for it. Is that what you said?
They just have to be filming within.
Don't you think that is a huge problem with all movies now, where it's just like, hey, guess what, guys? Justice League 4 is going to come out in the year 2025, and you're always chasing these release dates, which puts unneeded pressure on the studio, on the filmmakers, because it's like, hey, we have a movie, but we don't have somebody who's going to make the movie, somebody who's going to write the movie, somebody's going to star.
Pressure makes a better product.
There's always pressure, though.
But scheduling pressure makes a better product.
But aside from that, and I'm not sure, that's a rather spurious point, Justin, honestly. The pressure is on the license holder. I love you too. But the pressure is on the license holder, Warner Brothers, to begin production by X date. Otherwise, the people who are the license owner can say, you are abusing the license. You are not actively pursuing it in good faith. Therefore, you lose the rights, and we're going to go take them to some other producers and go somewhere else. That's why.
So they've got to get a move on, because if there's any bumps in the road...
It helps give the family, the Tolkien estate, an insurance policy to take the Tolkien stories to someone else if Amazon does not, in good faith, bring showrunners, directors, and writers and resources to make it happen in earnest.
And also the $1 billion commitment. The $1 billion commitment is not just to make the most expensive TV show of all time. It's to make sure that it's right. And if they go and they shoot a pilot and they do the first episode and it's not good, Amazon is basically saying, don't worry about it, there's enough money. That's what they're saying. And how many TV shows have we seen where they spend all this money on a pilot and then they release it, they know it's a turd, and they still release it, and the fans say, you know what, this is a turd, I don't want to see any more.
Right.
And Humans.
Right.
And
what
so many
better
other shows.
way, to ensure that it's a thing of quality that you're putting out than to put a time constraint on, the availability of the
It's
IP.
from the experience with Guillermo del Toro. When the Tolkien estate
Lesson
had
learned
a filmmaker
from
that everyone wanted, and because the studio didn't put it into production, they lost their chosen one. They don't want that to happen again. That's why they're taking their time choosing this showrunner right now, and whoever they choose, it's going to be a well thought out decision.
I don't think that they should pressure the production to do everything really fast and recklessly. I'm with you on that point, but I'm just saying, come on in. They'll take your order over there.
They could do a whole episode on Beorn,
Yes, they could do.
That would be amazing, right? Like, they could get a new actor, or the existing actor, Mikhail Bursbrand, or Guillermo's choice, Ron Perlman, as Beorn. I mean, there's so many things that they can do. In fact, Ron Perlman would be the perfect age right now. If
he would be.
Post-Hobbit.
I would like to see them take some time to be more thoughtful and careful with producing Tolkien. Of course I would. But I would also like to see them not say, oh, we have a contract right to sit on this for 7 years, and therefore nobody else can ever touch it.
And that's what happened with The Hobbit. And then because that happened, it got rushed, and we got what we got.
Yeah, I can see that. I just think that at a certain point, if you don't have the... and TV is a little bit different, but if you don't have the correct pieces in play, trying to hit that arbitrary deadline that you set for yourself, you put the wrong person, Stuart Townsend, in the role, and then you have
you got to reshoot everything.
And then you have to reshoot, or
Good point.
You've seen it with Michael J. Fox and Eric Stoltz. You've seen it a million times. But if you've already marketed the movie for a May release, or the TV show for a May release,
there's no release,
and then you have to go reshoot.
That's the important thing, and I want to remind everybody at home. The important thing is that there's no set release date. All they said was this has got to be filming within 2 years.
That's
That
right.
makes sense.
They didn't say when it had to be
They could
released.
take their time as long as they start the
That makes
project in
sense.
good faith.
That's the awful thing. It's like you want it to be done the best. You want them to take the time with it.
Yeah.
You want the story to come before the need to shoot. You know, like with all these Marvel films, my biggest thing is like, Jesus Christ, we know what the films, for the next 22 years are going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think even the writers know what they're going to be writing, but they just know that they have to have
They
a film
just know
written
the
by
arc.
this date.
Yeah.
I'm not down with that. I know that how that's business. That's how business is done, and that's fine. But like, if you're like a hardcore nerd boy fan, you want the story to come first before,
Well, I like what
In
I
a
like
perfect
how
world, that's how it would be, but I don't know. I don't think it's how it goes these days.
television allows you to do things that you can't do with film, and I do like what they're doing with Westworld. Was that they have certain points that they want to hit over 5 seasons. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Then they don't say, "Hey, this is going to happen at the end of season 1." It's literally like, "This has got to happen." Where it happens, we'll decide as we make it. And I feel like that's what they need to do. We know that for the fact that it starts when The Hobbit ends, and it ends when Fellowship begins. So they know the bookends. So what are the main points that need to hit? We need to see Hunt for Gollum. We need to see Elrond's twins do their thing. We need to know why Aragorn says, "I know what hunts you. You're not nearly frightened enough."
Gandalf specifically sends Aragorn out to be an active spy for him and pursue his interests in other countries. And when Aragorn says, "I have been to the lands far, far to the south, where the stars are strange," we are going to see some of his stories about him going to other places around and maybe even off.
How about
off the
Boromir
map,
saying
off the map of
there's
Middle
a
Earth?
stench
It's
there
exciting
that
to go to new
no one
places.
knows about? Like, why does Boromir know what Mordor smells like? Like these are some of the awesome stories that are alluded to in the movies.
You guys have me excited right now.
What about the Númenóreans? And the most important thing, I think, with starting with young Aragorn, back to your very much earlier point, Daniel, is that we have an advantage now to learn about the Númenórean heritage, about the crisis that they went through spiritually and politically when they made allies with Sauron, when they started doing devil worship, Sauron worship, slavery, human sacrifices against the destruction of Atlantis. I mean, that is something that could be the most massive piece of storytelling, and it could even be done in flashbacks to remind us of the family line, the beginning of Gondor and Arnor, and why Aragorn even has a bloodline that even matters.
Why does
None
Rohan
of that is touched
hesitate?
on
Why
in
does
any of the
Rohan
6 films.
hesitate? Why doesn't Rohan answer?
We've never ever learned. We've never learned about why he has a lineage that matters, and now we have a chance in this Amazon series to learn more about it, and that's fascinating to me.
So what he said is,
I'm just saying.
Everybody wants, as a fan, you want the story to come first, right?
Always.
And to build on that, then, all of the things you're saying, if they do them right, it makes Lord of the Rings a better movie, right? It makes it a better movie.
It will make it a better movie, and just like the Star Wars sequels are doing, they're making the prequels better movies in little ways. So this movie, I'm really this TV show, I'm really hyped up about. I think we've learned from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings experience that you can I think fandom is at a point where you can deviate from the thing. Like, you don't need to have all women be the Rohirrim. And you can hire multicultural actors to play some of these characters because they aren't all Danish, blonde hair, blue-eyed,
They're not.
And that's not what Tolkien intended.
There are many
when
other
he wrote
places
them.
around this big, active, mythological world.
We've got to wrap up the show
Got
pretty
a lot
quick.
to explore.
So I just wanted to touch on a few things for Comic-Con. Again, our panel is Friday at 3 o'clock. JC, when is your panel?
I think it's Friday at 3 o'clock
Oh,
also.
man.
Dude.
I'm
man.
I'm arguing Last Jedi, so.
You know,
support?
things you've seen on this show. The genesis of my invitation to that panel was on this show.
Really?
Which you could watch, 2 months ago?
Yeah,
when
with Chris Gore.
Gore and I had a conversation about it.
Right here on
So
the show, and
good.
now you're
And-
going to Comic-Con
Yeah.
as a guest at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
See,
we had-
that's what happens here at Scum and Villainy Cantina. If you come and join the show, you might get an invite to Comic-Con. That's literally how it happens.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go, and Gore
it's
wanted
happened
me
before.
to go down. So
Yeah, so
there I am.
people in the chat room were
It's
saying,
happened
"Hey,
before.
are you guys giving away tickets to Comic-Con?"
Like,
no,
literally.
not right now, but
Literally.
literally, it happened. It happened, and you guys, if you're coming to LA, traveling through the summer, fall, winter, we're here every week.
Please join us.
At Tuesday at 5 p.m. Make an effort to come here. In fact, when Kelly Rice and Alex Rice came on the show, they were chat room regulars. They came on the show. Now look at Kelly. She is doing autograph signings at the Weta booth, signing her book published by Weta, The History of Middle-earth, Script to Scream.
Co-written with Daniel Falconer.
She is on the byline in the book on Amazon, and she was just one of you in the chat room, and she came on the show, and now she's working for Weta, and she's doing an autograph signing. So look,
And didn't you meet Hannah in line? Where did Hannah come from? Who just took this
and Hannah,
magical trip to New Zealand?
And Hannah,
That's
yes.
right.
The young director, the young filmmaker who often co-hosts with us.
Yeah, Hannah was on the street in her cosplay, and she name dropped Philippa and Fran, and we're like, you know what, you're more than a fan if you recognize those people. And now she's co-hosting with you, and now she went to New Zealand, and
She's like sending pictures of her like sleeping at Bag End and like riding Smaug
Yes,
through the
she is.
mountains of New Zealand and like just magical things. Obviously I'm exaggerating, but not that much. It's crazy.
No. So look, there's 3 people that have come on our show that have gone on to great professional things. Comic-Con panelist here for the first time in his life, Kelly Rice, doing autograph signings Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think at 4 o'clock.
And very soon, Daniel Lewis, we're going to get you a job with your friends down. No? You're
So-
shaking your head? You want to work at Weta?
The point is, we want you to come on the show just to be a part of the conversation, because one thing that is absolutely clear that no one can debate is that
What's
the
that?
success of the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon is dependent on the engagement of the fans during the development process.
That is so true, and I'm really glad you said that.
Peter said it at
So
Cannes in 2001.
It's true.
He said, we got to get the fans on board, the hardcore fans. Everyone said it during The Hobbit. Guillermo del Toro went on our message boards, and in fact, we had to call his people to verify it really was him and not a poser. Guillermo went on our message boards and said, I'm doing the most awesome things. I can't wait to show you guys. So the filmmakers from 2000 on have known that the engagement with the fans is important to the success of Middle-earth. And Amazon, if you're listening, please come to our panel. We've got so much more to talk about. This is just a tease
We do.
of the conversations that are happening. We are also going to touch on the Return of the King vinyl release. We've got information on that. We've got the Tolkien exhibition from the Bodleian Library is coming to America. We got more information on that.
The Bodleian Library.
Bodleian Library.
There you go.
For the first time in history that the Tolkien family has allowed Tolkien's original manuscripts to come stateside. This is a big deal. Next year
Yes.
is going to be the biggest American fan of Tolkien year, and the show is just getting started. So we're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, Scum and Villainy Cantina, open to all ages, right? Yeah.
Yeah, until 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Until 8? I thought it was 9.
So
but
please
until 8.
come to LA, come to
Okay.
Hollywood. We're right on Hollywood Boulevard. The stars are right in front of the place. And Cliff, they can follow you on Instagram and Twitter. And
I would
everything.
encourage everyone to follow not only myself, but follow The One Ring on all of our social media platforms, The One Ring Net. And you could find me on Instagram and Twitter half the time talking about Tolkien and half the time talking about Miyazaki or other mischief at QuickBeam 2000. And that's where you can talk with me anytime about your ideas. Going forward, we are going to be your one-stop shop for news, gossip, information, surprise exclusives.
Dude, we didn't
as
even
we get
talk
more
about,
details.
I forgot to mention.
Whoa,
thank
here's
you.
one now. Here's an exclusive now.
Thank you for the reminder in
here.
the chat room. One of our volunteer staff members reminds me that J.R.R. Tolkien is getting his first biographical feature film from the recently Best Picture Oscar winner Fox Searchlight Studio,
Yes,
who also did The Theory of Everything, I believe.
they did.
And they are doing
I
a
believe
movie
so.
about J.R.R. Tolkien starring Nicholas Hoult from X-Men and Mad Max. This is going to be a major, major holiday release for all the Oscars. Tolkien
Yep.
might come home with some Oscars this year.
And the name of that film is Tolkien,
I don't
not
like that
surprisingly.
because I know how it ends.
He carries his buddy Sam off the field during an epic rugby
you might
match.
be surprised, perhaps, but the movie only focuses on his early life only. So
his best friend takes a
So
knee
there
in a
you
rugby
go.
match and he carries him off the field. I can carry you.
No, it's nothing like that.
So you guys, we'll see you at Comic-Con. Unfortunately, we cannot live stream these rules and
That's
rules
too bad.
about live streaming, but
That's
we
too
will
bad.
we will live stream as much as possible from the Weta booth as we walk around. Cliff, I'm so excited to hang out with you at Comic-Con.
I'm
this year.
very excited to see you there Friday, July 20th at